What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We are continuing our 2022 predictions here with the USC Trojans, team with a lot of hype coming into this season. Here are some of the predictions for USC. The FBI not very high on this team, 7.9 and 4.3. I don't know if they're not taking into account all the transfers, or I don't know what the deal is there, but that's pretty low. I mean, I guess it's not that low, 8 and 4, but yeah, 7.9 and 4.3. Athlon has them at 9 and 3. The over/under is at 9.5, so you're looking at 9 and 3 or 10 and 2, the most likely records for this USC team. And I don't think Athlon, when they did their magazine, I don't think Jordan Addison had transferred yet. But that may be the only big name that they had not gotten. So that maybe that would have changed them a little bit. Maybe they would have put them at 10 and 2. I don't know. But yeah, the over/under there at 9 and 5, 9.5. So pretty much you can expect USC to be. I mean, if you go down to the FPI, maybe 8 and 4, 9 and 3, 10 and 2. Those are the projections here for this USC team. My personal thoughts on this team: I think they're going to be really explosive offensively. A lot of new faces, but I don't think that's going to really matter. I think Caleb Williams will be one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and this might be the deepest group of wide receivers in the country. I mean, they've got so many weapons. They've got weapons in the backfield. And then the offensive line, a lot of people are saying, well, they're not going to have a good offensive line, so this other stuff's not going to matter. USC should have a pretty good offensive line coming back this year. I've looked at this offensive line. I think they're going to be solid. I think they'll be just fine. Where I'm concerned about USC is the defense. There are a lot of things going against them. When you look at the overall talent of this defense, it's not great. It's just not. There's not a lot of depth. It's a new coaching staff, so it's going to take some time to learn the scheme. I think they're really going to struggle on that side of the ball, and that's what's going to keep them from being maybe that playoff team that some people are expecting them to be this year. I think they're a year away from possibly doing that, but this year, not quite as high on them. I think that defense is really going to hurt them. It's going to be kind of like the Oklahoma teams that we've seen in the past, with Lincoln Riley, where they just score a ton of points and the defense gives up a ton of points. But with this being his first year, I just don't know if he can get them to that playoff level. We'll see. All right, so here's the schedule. They will open up with Rice. Rice will be the opener. And you look at their non-conference schedule with Rice and Fresno State and then Notre Dame. Not too tough. Of course, they play Notre Dame every year, so you're going to have that tough game in the non-conference. But yeah, Rice did open things up. Should be an easy win. I think they probably score 70 points in that game, and they get off to a 1-0 start. Then they'll play Stanford on September the 10th. An experienced team, a veteran team, playing at home. Huge game for them. Everybody's going to be hyping up USC. I think because of that, we see an upset here. I think Stanford at home knocks off USC. I think this Stanford team is going to be good this year. Their schedule's tough, as it always is, but I think they're going to be good this year. I think people are sleeping on them just a little bit, and just looking back at recent history, they've always seemed to play USC pretty tough, and so I think they're going to pull off the upset here and maybe slow down that hype for USC just a little bit. Next week is against Fresno State, a very good Group of 5 team. This will not be an easy game, but I think USC just has too much firepower on offense. I think they win this game, and they improve to 2-1. Next game is against Oregon State on the road. Team with a lot coming back. Both sides of the ball, they look really strong. They'll be playing at home. That's a tough place to play. Maybe a little bit underrated as far as being a tough place to play. And again, with USC, I think just the continuity of this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to take them a little bit of time. I think Oregon State is going to go and get a big upset here. I think Oregon State will upset USC, and they will knock them down to 2-2. Now, again, I say this in most of these videos, don't get too hung up on the wins and losses as far as who they come to. I make my predictions, I make my records, and then I go back in. It's like a puzzle filling out who's going to beat who. And trying to get all the games to match up to the records that I predict. Most people don't predict every single game. It's a challenge, let me tell you. But they might beat Oregon State, and then they might lose somewhere else where I have them winning. It's going to be all about the overall record at the end of the season. Usually when I do these videos, people get so hung up on the individual games. There's no way this team's losing to this team or beating this team. just focus on that record at the end of the video. All right, Arizona State coming up next on October the 1st, a home game for USC. Not really high on Arizona State this year. I think they'll be an okay team, but they're not going to have, I don't think they're going to have enough in this game. I think USC at home, they'll win. They cruise, they pull away in the second half. Washington State, they will be next here on October the 8th, a home game for USC. Similar to Arizona State, a game where USC just kind of pulls away in the second half. The offense putting up some big numbers, and they get the win to improve to 4-2. Up next, it's Utah on the road. I think this is just a bad matchup for USC. The physicality of this Utah team playing on the road, just not a lot to make me think that USC could win this game. I just don't see it happening. I think it's close. It's a hard-fought game, but Utah gets this win. So I'm going to go with the Utes as USC, then going to drop to 4-3. Next game is on the road at Arizona. They get a bye week. That'll help. It'll be a fired-up Arizona team, a young team, a hungry team. They'll play tough for a while, but I think USC will pull away in the second half. They get the win, improve to 5-3. Up next, it's Cal on November the 5th. Cal lost a lot of production from last year. Not expecting a whole lot of it from them this year. I think USC cruises in this game. They get the win, getting to 6-3. Same thing with Colorado, just not going to be a challenge in my opinion. You get three pretty easy games in a row here, honestly, with Arizona, Cal, and Colorado. So I think they will get to 7-3. Couple of tough games, though, to close out the season. They'll play UCLA on the road, an experienced UCLA team, a talented team, returning their quarterback, adding some transfers. This will be a tough game, and this is one I was really back and forth on. I was leaning USC, then leaning UCLA, going back and forth. And so for my prediction video here, I'm going to say that USC wins this game. It's a toss-up, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe they beat Oregon State, and then they lose to UCLA. I mean, that could easily happen. When I was doing my predictions, I needed a win for Oregon State. I needed another loss for UCLA, and that's just how it came out. But yeah, I think originally when I just ran through the schedule, I gave them losses to Stanford, Utah, and UCLA. Then I switched it around because I think I had UCLA's record a little higher than I wanted, Oregon State a little lower than I wanted. And so that's just kind of the process that I go through when I do these predictions. So I'm going to say they beat UCLA, but maybe you want to flip those games. Maybe they lose to UCLA, they beat Oregon State. Both of those games I think will be big-time tests for this USC team. And then they'll play Notre Dame to close things out. I think by now they're rolling. You know, they've all these new faces. They've come together. The offense should be clicking on all cylinders. The defense should improve all year long. They're playing at home. You put all that together, and I think USC gets a big win here over Notre Dame, and I've got them finishing the season 9-3. I could see them maybe going 10-2. Maybe they beat Oregon State. You know, really, they could go 11-1. I mean, they have a chance to beat Stanford and Oregon State. There's just so many question marks, and especially, like I said, on the defense, it's hard for me to hype them up too high when they were so low last year. So I'm going to kind of stop the hype train at 9-3. Still a really good year for USC. Not quite a playoff season or anything like that. But I think USC has a really good chance to go 9-3, 10-2, something like that in 2022.